Hello and welcome to Story X Story, the podcast by My Matter that dives deep into stories across pop culture, plus gives you advice on creating your own. It's episode 234, and I'm your co host, Nigel.
I am Tazziii, content creator and co-host.
And as always, we're bringing you interesting discussions with diverse voices. And to help us out today, as we try and figure out how do you run an event? What does it take to run an event? And can I run an event? I hope yes, because we've done a few ourselves. But we have some event experts with us in this discussion. Firstly, I will introduce Thought Bubble organizer Martha Julian. Martha, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me. How you doing?
We're getting there. We're getting there. I've got. I'm trying to. The listeners won't be able to hear all the sniffling that I'm going to be doing over this next hour. But yeah, you have to use your imaginations, people. So, thanks for joining us. And alongside Martha, we have Festival of the Girl organizer Abby Wright. Abby, welcome to the show as well.
Hi, thank you very much for having me.
Thank you both for joining. This is a good opportunity. We've been to both of your events, but as people who also run events, I'm always interested to see what other people are doing, what it's like for you, because you run quite sizable events for both of you, and what that looks like on that scale. So yeah, looking forward to the discussion. Listeners, you can subscribe to Story X Story wherever you get your podcast from. That includes Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube as well. We've got some episodes there. You can also send us your feedback and questions in a variety of ways. You can chat with us in the My Matter Studio 77 Discord. You can email us studio77@mymatter.com, or you can throw your thoughts at us on social media. We are at mymatter on Twitter, at mymattertv on Instagram and TikTok, and at mymatter.com on Blue Sky, or at Life of a W Gamer on Instagram and TikTok, and at Tazziii on everything else. You can also head to mymatter.com to get our latest manga and discover the My Matter brand in general. We make comics, we do podcasts, you know that already, but we do other things you might not be aware of. So check that out. And before we get to today's discussion, let's update you with the latest from the My Matter universe. I mentioned our manga. You can check that out online. We actually brought that to both events, Thought Bubble and Festival of the Girl. Had some nice reactions at both instances. We have our Look Like a Gamer campaign ongoing for what remains of the year. So the campaign is about promoting diversity and inclusion in the video games industry. So this is a yearly initiative, which means each year we do a snapshot of 40 players and makers to showcase representation where it does exist, as a means to inspire future generations of diverse talent. We have one more event left in the year because we have just done, well, depending on when you listen to this, but we've just done the Friends and Family Game Design Jam at Square Enix. So that was all about tabletop game design, making things without the use of tech, but learning about the fundamentals of game design with some industry professionals, with the My Matter team, just a fun day out for families, so young, older as well. We'll be doing the event again next year, so as part of that campaign for 2026. So yeah, keep an eye out when we announce dates and everything for next year's campaign, and make sure you jump on if you didn't already, or even if you did, because you might want to do it all again. But we have one more event coming for 2025, which is our Next One Up live stream. So each year of the campaign, we end it with a live stream where we bring together people who have taken part in the campaign, people who are interested in diversity and inclusion, or just on that game development, game industry journey, to join us and chat about all things games, the industry, the wider culture. For this live stream in particular, we like to get emerging talent as well. So younger talent, graduate students, first-time indie developers, but also people from around the world. So we try and spread the net wide as well. So come check it out. And again, if you don't catch it on the day, it will be on our YouTube and on Twitch VOD for a couple of weeks afterwards. So we'll be live streaming on Saturday, the 13th of December, and then it'll be available on Twitch for 2 weeks after that, and then YouTube until, I don't know, until their servers go down, which doesn't seem to be anytime soon. So we'll be live streaming from 1 p.m. GMT. you can get involved in that, and also stay tuned for how you can get involved in the 2026 campaign. We have other live stream activities taking place as part of our Studio 77 platform, which is where we host different shows with creative professionals and also play games for your amusement. So we have shows like the Studio 77 report, which we just did a new format of. Go check that out on our YouTube page. Me and Tazziii giving some updates from the My Matter universe, but also talking about the creative journey. So anyone who's on that journey can join us for those live streams. We have casual conversations with comic creators and games night as well. So make sure you're following us on Twitch and YouTube, and you can catch them when we go live. And if you are a young aspiring creative professional, or you know of one, then check out the My Matter Showrunners Work Experience program. So we are creating opportunities for young people aged 16 and up to work with our team across comic production, events, and content creation. And I know particularly for the Festival of the Girl, we had a few, I'm trying to remember how many exactly, at least 3 young people working with us across those 2 days. So I know they really enjoyed it. And we have the pictures to prove it. So thanks for that, by the way, Abby. So you can email us, showrunners@mymatter.com, to find out more about that. So now you're all caught up with the My Matter universe. Let's get into today's topic. We are here talking about events. And like I said, both Abby and Martha are part of the organizing team for 2 nationally recognized events, Festival of the Girl and Thought Bubble. And yeah, we want to get into some insight at how those things go, because I feel like as attendees, we can sometimes overlook the amount of work it takes to put these events together year on year as well. And like I said at the beginning, as event organizers ourselves, even at a smaller stage, it's a lot of work. So I can only imagine everything that you have to go through. And in fact, I don't have to imagine, because that's why you're here. So we're going to dig into that. So I did say that we, My Mad, have been to both of your events over the years, and most recently, because you both had events in November, October, or was one in October, one in November? I forget how
Thought
time
Bubble was
works.
November.
There
And
you
we were
go.
October.
There you go. Cool. All right, fact check live. So since they were both recently, how are you both feeling, like after, like, what the post event feelings? Martha, you're most recent. Let us know, how are you feeling after your event?
You know what? I'm all right, and I think every year the 3 of there's 3 festival directors. I'm one of them, and then there's Amy and Chloe. And every year we surprise ourselves with just how good we feel at the end. We've made so many changes. It's the kind of thing I can tell you, as you were talking about how things develop, and I can go into it later if you want. But
Yeah.
we learn every single year, oh, let's not do that thing because we're too tired for that, so let's work out a different process so we're not so tired at the end. Just as a little example, we used to pack down, the festival finishes on Sunday night, and we used to do all our packing down on the Monday morning, and it was awful. We were exhausted, and now we push through on the Sunday night and completely empty the halls on the Sunday night, and we are done, and then on Monday we will just go out for brunch. So okay. You just learn little lessons, and we're surprisingly untired. I'm just riding high on it all. Yeah.
Okay, I'm genuinely surprised. Fair enough. I almost don't believe you. But
I think
fair
it's
enough.
also the fact that we just plow on. Everyone says, "Oh, you must get a lovely big break," but because there's 3 of us running this enormous thing, we just crack on. And I think there's something about that, just plowing through, that means you don't really get a chance to crash.
Yeah. Fair enough. All right, Abby, how about yourself?
Yeah, I feel slightly different. I mean, our event is such a positive event, and definitely this year was our most impactful, but also most positive. We are dealing with young kids, so there is usually parents that are upset or annoyed about something. There's usually stall holders that are annoyed about something, but actually for some reason this year all of that seemed to be fine. So from that perspective, it all went really well. But I think we've come out the other side, and this would potentially be something we chat more about later, but the funding for everything this year was really tough. We struggled a lot, and I think we sort of came to the end of that, and it was sort of like, we're right back at the start from the point of view of funding for next year. So we didn't take, a lesson learned is we didn't take the time to have a moment and think, wow, that went really well. We sort of went straight into right, how are we gonna do this again?
Yeah.
So it's been a bit tricky, and also Laura. So I'm the only one that works on it full time. Laura and Jen both have full time jobs, so they've also had to disappear back into their full time jobs. So it was a wonderful event, but yes, it's not. It's been I'd say quite a difficult,
It's a
unfortunately,
challenge.
difficult time since then. Yeah.
So then, for both of you, and as organisers, like, where do you find the enjoyment in running an event? Because it is tough, and I feel like as attendees, you can come and go. So let's say, because both of your events are 2 days, but let's say someone comes for the one day, they come in, they have a good time, and I met a lot of them, and then they go home, and that's it. They're done. They've enjoyed it. But as event organisers, you're like, beforehand, during, after, like, at what point do you find the enjoyment in running an event for each of you?
Well, I don't know how you feel, Martha, but I think because I never ever planned to work in events, so it's I'm 7 years into it now, but it's got to be the moment it's happening. Seeing the girls getting involved in the activities, that buzz in the room, the parents, the carers who are really happy. It's, for me, it is that moment, and obviously afterwards you get wonderful feedback, and it is that moment where you're like, oh yeah, this is why I do it. Or you'll have a parent come up to we have parents come up to us that are mainly women. I don't think we've had a dad do this, in tears, just saying, I never imagined my daughter would be able to experience this and try these different things. She's completely surprised me. I wish we'd had this when I was younger. And it's those moments that absolutely remind you, this is why I work so hard, because it is making a difference.
Yeah, I feel, Tazziii, you said that at the event as well.
Yeah, like walking around, just like, it hits me so much. It's like, this is such an amazing event of, like, I'm so happy that all these young women, these girls have the access to this, and like just kind of wishing that I had it when I was younger, because it is just such a great event, and seeing so many like options and opportunities that at least when I was younger, were like not an option. Not that they weren't an option, but it wasn't very like accessible as a girl. And to just see like all of that like opportunity to explore all these different pathways and interests is amazing.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. And of, like, for you, Martha, in terms of, where do you find enjoyment, or the most enjoyment, or how does it reflect for you?
I love every minute of it, to be honest. I really, I found it quite interesting this year, because my favourite part of a convention has always been, I love the Friday. So we're a weekend convention, but the Friday is particularly thrilling because there's just 3 of us working on the festival throughout the entire year. And then on the Friday before the convention weekend, that's when another 10 members of staff show up, 100 volunteers show up, and it's suddenly just this absolute sea of people who 80% of whom come back year after year. So it's just like this huge party of seeing loads of friends, and then watching the convention centre, actually watching the con itself. We have kind of 700 tables, and we have a stage and we for panel talks, and we have a whole panel area upstairs, and these it just goes up in half a day, and it is absolutely thrilling to watch. There was actually someone kind of doing a time lapse of it this year, and I can't wait to see it because it goes up
nice.
so fast. But I just love the whole thing. But what the difference between now and a few years ago, because we're getting so much better now at knowing the questions that people ask, knowing the hiccups that there used to be, we put these new processes in to try and get round those. And it means that now on the convention weekend, I can just walk around and say hello to people. Whereas up until maybe 2 years ago, I was spending the entire weekend just firefighting, running from one running from one issue to another. But we're getting so good at it now. We're nearly 20. We're getting so much better at it now that I actually get to spend the weekend, having a nice time, and going and checking on people and making sure that people are having a nice time too.
Yeah, has it been on 20 years of Thought Bubble almost?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, I think isn't we can't quite work it out. I think it's like it's like it's the 20th year, but not necessarily the 20th festival. It's one of those funny.
Right.
It's one of those. Like
Got
the
you.
maths is weird.
Yeah.
So we can't. So we think we might just celebrate for 2 years, just to be on the safe side. But yeah,
that's fair.
I mean, I've been there since 2011, so I've been around for donkeys.
Hey, and I mean, what inspired you to start your events? And also, I mean, you've both been doing it for a long time, and long enough for, I imagine, the initial vision to evolve, if not like change, because it's the same event. But yeah, what was that initial spark to say, like, I want to do this event? But then also over time, has that vision evolved at all?
For us, so I wasn't there at the very beginning. That was our ex festival director, who is a comic artist called Tula Lote. She started the whole thing in 2007. And Tula Lote, also known as Lisa Wood. Lisa Wood is her real name. Tula Lote is her artistic name. So yeah, Lisa is dyslexic and was born and raised in Batley, and used to go to Batley Market and buy comics, and just immediately saw how comics helped, was so incredible for helping young people to read. And it's wild how it's still a battle in terms of getting funding. It's still a battle to try and show funders that comics are this incredible medium. It's wild that people don't know it yet. It really is.
Yeah.
But yeah, so she used comics to help her start reading, as she was quite severely dyslexic. And the aim of starting Thought Bubble was to just get kids reading, to create this festival, to kind of big up comics. So our ethos really hasn't changed. That's what it still is. We're still sending artists into schools and doing all these comics workshops. And I mean, obviously we've grown. We have more kind of big name guests than we had at that point, but we've remained true to what it was then. There are so many Comic Cons out there that are cast of Doctor Who, cast of Star Trek, and we just haven't. We're not. That's not us. I mean, I love those cons. Don't get me wrong; like, they're absolutely brilliant. But that's not us. We are just the artists and the writers of comics. So yeah, the ethos really hasn't changed in 20 years, to be honest.
No, that's cool. And like, for yourself, Abby, is that, I mean, I guess because yours is still the same. It's because you got very clear. Like, it's on the tin. Does what it says on the tin.
Yeah. I think it's the same. We started it 7 years ago because we wanted something different for girls, and I think after that first year we realised that this was something that was wanted and was needed, and it's sort of grown from there. I think it's sort of like what Martha says. I think over the 7 years it's grown. That's the big difference. Obviously, there's all the learnings you take every year, but I think also it's grown from the point of view of our ambitions for it. Originally it literally was, and deep down this was what it still is for me, is that it makes a difference for my own kids. It was to make it, something that they could be part of. But now it's also looking at, we want to be able to reach as many girls as we possibly can across the UK, across the globe, but we want to reach, and we want to be part of the parents and carers' lives. We want to be going into schools more, and looking into ways that, and Martha, I don't know sort of how it is with you, like with the work that we do, a lot of the people that help us out, well, especially at the events, obviously a lot of volunteers. Thank God for the volunteers at the event. They're like, keep it all together, don't they?
Unbelievable.
They are amazing.
Yeah.
But we have quite a few different people volunteering and helping us throughout the year. And I think since starting the festival 7 years ago, I speak to a lot of organisations created for women and girls, people in that sector. And all of those women are either working for free on a voluntary basis. It's a passion project they're doing outside of work, or they're making very little money doing it. And it's really, really hard work. And it is this constant battle where there's a lot of burnout. There's a lot of non-profits that go under because they just can't get the funding. I think it's something like 1.8% of all grants and funding in the UK go to women and girls organisations. Wow. And I think we would love to create a framework where if someone comes to us and says, I want to run Festival Girl in my community, wherever that is in the world, we can support them to not only run it, but to make sure that all those women, which inevitably it will be mostly, will also be financially supported to do it. Because it's just, the last 7 years just opened my eyes to how much work we do and how we are just, we can't, can't carry on like we are. So more than, it's still, like you say, it's super clear what it's for. It's for the girls. And it's to change the conversation, but it's evolving to be more about how it can support women as well, I think.
Yeah, that's really interesting to hear. I feel for both of you, that is the driving force, right, to do it year in, year out. Because like as we go sort of behind the scenes, we can look at what it takes to put on an event. And I feel I think this was ages ago. I had a friend who put on an event. No, it's definitely pre-pandemic. And it was like a fashion type event, and she did a lot of work to put it together. And I remember at the end of it, I asked her like, okay, so like, what's the plan for next year? And she was like, oh no, this is it. I'm good. I'm good. And that kind of like baffled me, because in my mind, like obviously it's year on year and you try and build something. But I think in for her, and it's fine, it's totally like not a problem. It's just it was just stark for me because it was not how I think about it. Where she was like, oh, I just want to do it once and I'm good. Whereas I imagine, I know because it has to be it's about something bigger than one event. Therefore, it has to be year on year. Is that? I guess that's how you both think about it, I imagine.
Yeah, I don't know. It's interesting with Thought Bubble because, and it might be the same for you, Abby, that the bones of the festival do not change. You know, it's 600 exhibitors selling their wares, and it's a bunch of guests, and then it's panels and it's workshops and exhibitions. But so the bones are there every year, but then it somehow manages to grow within that. You know, like the programming gets better, or we find somewhere even more incredible. For example, we've got this entire gallery in Harrogate. So in the last few years, we've been using one room in their gallery, and then this year they suddenly gave us their entire enormous gallery for this incredible exhibition. And getting bigger and better guests. And yes, I don't know, somehow, you know, we come out of every festival thinking that was the best one yet. And yet we've still got this drive to immediately start planning 2026 and work out how to make it better. You know, like we don't, like I said, we don't, because there's only 3 of us, we don't really get a chance to stop. We have to start getting the applications in and curating, and that all starts in January. You know, it just takes the entire year. And you've got to start inviting guests now, you know, and
And you both kind of sort of hinted at this, or you both kind of like said this in terms of like team size. I feel one of the many things that people might misunderstand about events is often how few people are responsible for organizing even large events. So I think you've both said it, but just to clarify, like how big are your teams? And then within that, because there are so many roles for events, how do you delegate like responsibilities within that team?
For us, we're like Martha. Yeah, we've got the 3, but Laura and Jen, they run their own businesses outside of this. So it's me full time on it, and they pop in when they can. But actually, for us, it was quite clear from the start what our roles were. So I was always the one that would. So I approached both of them with this idea. and I was the one that could take the time to work in it full time and lead it. Whereas, and this is where Laura would have been great on this call. Laura owns an events agency, so she's the person who
Handy.
sweeps in. Because honestly, that I, you know, as someone who'd never run events, I've learned a lot from Laura. So she sort of sweeps in right towards the end and makes it come together. You know, the look of it, all of that stuff. And then Jen, in her work, she runs a lot of training in corporate. So she's the one who's having a lot of initial conversations, when she goes into the corporates and being like, oh, by the way, I also run Fest of the Girl. Would you like to partner with us? So in a way, it was quite clear early on. Obviously, towards the end, and I'm sure Martha knows that you're doing anything and everything. You know, it's like in the lead up to it, everyone it's all hands on deck. But throughout the rest of the year, it's quite clear what we do, which is probably quite helpful actually.
So we've got the three of us, myself, Amy, and Chloe. We all do work full time. We've also got Nabil, who's the managing director of Travelling Man, a chain of comic book shops as well. So we share Travelling Man's office, and Nabil is also our managing director. So he kind of holds the purse strings. But it's Amy, Chloe, and I who are working full time all year, and we do dole out jobs a little bit. I plan the festival week. So Thought Bubble is a week-long festival that culminates in this weekend Comic-Con. But we have about kind of usually 20 or so events going on in the festival week in Leeds as well. So I'm across all that. I do the accounting. There are some roles that we just all do, you know, we all invite guests, we all kind of look after the exhibitor mailboxes and the just kind of general info mailboxes. Poor Amy, does the funding bids every year.
Amy.
Which we do not get ever. But she's still you know, we're eternally hopeful every single year. We do funding bids every single year, and they take us months on end, and we never get the money.
Oh, Martha, I hear you.
I know.
Oh God, it's so painful. It's so painful.
I know. We're really hoping this year, with our 20th anniversary, we're going to hopefully, you know, see if we can get some heritage funding of some kind. But I mean, who knows? But then, you know, a little bit more about staffing is that we've also got a lovely gentleman who also works for Travelling Man, who is called Steve, and he's our convention manager. And then we've got Jip, who's our tech manager, Pete, who's our volunteer manager. But they kind of come in the last couple of weeks, as opposed to. Right. It's really, really just a small team of us for the year. Yeah, and then the volunteers, who are mind blowing. I made a speech. I made a speech on the Sunday of the con to the volunteers, and I was sobbing my heart out. Just because I was just saying to them how bizarre it is that you spend the whole year planning. You know, you order tables and you order chairs and you order screens and all this stuff, and in your head there's just these kind of magical pixies that are going to deal with all that stuff. But you know, it's somehow the halls are going to get laid out, you know. But then 100 volunteers show up, and magical pixies.
Yeah, I can imagine. I mean, like you mentioned, or I think someone mentioned, or I just imagined it, but maybe it wasn't the original intention to get into events. And I feel for myself, I don't know how you feel about this, Tazziii, because Tazziii, did you plan to get into event organising? Because I've just like dragged you into it. But,
maybe not event organising, but I'm also someone that doesn't have much plans. I'm just kind of like, here's my skill set. I hope to find something that it fits into. Okay. But I did, I've always been interested in, I say always, like for a long time I was interested in events. Like I'd done some bits with some companies like at Comic-Con and stuff like that, like helping out with stands. So it wasn't like wildly off base. I love going. I've always loved going to events. No, actually, maybe I did want to get into event organizing.
Maybe
I've definitely had some thoughts, but like I have a lot of ideas. So
yeah,
but I definitely have been to like EGX and like looked at this like back when EGX was like really good, and like been in awe and been like, oh, wouldn't it be great to be someone who puts this together? Yeah, okay. So it wasn't like completely off, but like I'm so like floaty.
Yeah. I was super purposeful with it. Okay. About getting into events. I started out, I was working at Leeds University just doing admin, and it was this horrific job where I would be given these forms that I put into a folder that I put above my head on a shelf, and then they got incinerated after a decade. And no one else looked at them, and it used to drive me mad. I was just like, oh my god, this job is so awful. And then I got voluntary redundancy, and had a year's tax-free salary. And rather than down payment on a house or a trip around the world like some people might have done, what I decided to do was use that money to spend a year volunteering at all my dream organisations. And Thought Bubble was one of those. And I also went and volunteered at, Leeds International Film Festival, Sheffield Documentary Festival, Leeds Piano Competition, just like any arts festivals, because that's what I wanted to do. So yeah, I ended up managing Leeds International Piano Competition for a year, which was a really, really weird job. But then, went along and volunteered at Thought Bubble, and just the atmosphere was just mind-blowingly positive and beautiful. And so I just found Lisa's email and said, I've got some time if you need some help. I don't need paying, and that's how it started.
And here's where we are. That's cool.
Yeah, I think quite a lot of people in the arts have stories like that. I think a lot of people give their time for free for a long time.
For a time.
Before you start being able to actually get a salary.
I know that feeling.
It's very, I feel very, very honoured to be somebody who is working in the arts on a salary, because there aren't many of us.
So was it Abby? I think you were similar to me in that you didn't intend to necessarily get into events.
Yeah, and actually, I think there's probably part of me that didn't want to get into it, because I think I knew how hard it was. But I think and this goes to what you just said, Martha. You go to an event and they are just so. It's going to sound really cheesy, but when I think about the festival, it's magical. With the atmosphere and everything that's going on. And I think, as much as we are doing work in schools or creating free resources and all the stuff that we're doing outside of the events, it is getting those people together in a space that is nothing like it. And that's, you hear a lot of people talk about the spark moment where, you can have kids that just come to Festival of the Girl once, but something sparks something for them that they then continue on, and it creates change for them. And there really is nothing like it. So, for us, I know where we have the most impact is when you get those girls in a room together. But it's really hard work.
Sure. Yeah, it is. And I mean, like, from your perspective, Tazziii, as I say, like the event attendee, from what we've heard so far, do you necessarily like look out for that kind of story, that ethos in an event? Like, what keeps you coming back, or what attracts you to an event? Sorry.
I think for me, it's the attendees, like what kind of people attend, which I think goes out to like the organisers, because I think how everything's put together and marketed has a big effect on who shows up. And so that and like atmosphere is a big one for me. Like a good atmosphere is definitely what what keeps me coming. Like, I went to Thought Bubble for the first time last year, and I really wanted to try and make it this year, and I couldn't. And I was like, why have I never been to Thought Bubble before? This is amazing. Like, it was so nice to just, I had so many great chats with like exhibitors and other attendees. And as well, it'd been the like first time in a while that I'd literally just gone to an event as an attendee, not like working in any capacity. So that was also really nice. I'm really glad that was the one, because I was like, oh, this is what I love about events. So yeah, I think, I didn't say exhibitors before, but also the exhibitors that are there.
No, it sounds good. And I feel so. All right, so we'll go to the other side now, because it's been entirely too positive now. So let's look at the challenges. That was all nice that you said, but we're here to look at the reality. So yeah, let's explore some of the difficulties of keeping an event going, because problems do always come up. I know, Abby, you mentioned like funding, like, venue, audience, attendees, exhibitors. We did an event recently. We were supporting the delivery of an event, and I said to the organizers, who are relatively new in the game space, but we're inviting a bunch of indie developers to exhibit their games, and I said to them, like, you have to understand, the most demanding people in that room will be those exhibitors. And not that they didn't necessarily listen to me, but I don't think they fully appreciated it until afterwards when all the demands were flying at them. And I imagine it's the same for comic and exhibitors and others, and I count myself in that. So what would you say for each of you, what's the biggest challenge, aside from funding, because that we can come to that as well, but aside from funding, what's the biggest challenge in running your respective events, and how do you work to overcome it?
Yeah, I would say ours is definitely, well, in the past especially, it has been just because we just keep growing. So it has definitely been finding spaces to hold us has been our biggest challenge, I would say, particularly throughout the last decade. So we started in Leeds in this smallish venue, and then moved down to the Armoury. We went from 1 hall to 2 halls to 3 halls to marquees, to Leeds Town Hall, Leeds City Museum, and then, the marquee, we had 2 years in marquees, and I would count that as a low. That was that was definitely a Thought Bubble low. It was just wildly expensive to build marquees, and
Really?
to be at the mercy of the weather. No, we
Yeah, actually, I
vowed
remember
we
that.
will never, ever, ever, ever be outdoors again. It was
Yeah,
horrible.
not in Britain. That is.
No. And then, for us, I think it's just our main challenge is just, aside from funding, which we could talk about for hours, time, that, just having such a tiny team with such an incredible amount to do. And then being at the mercy of, being at the mercy of a convention centre. Obviously, Harrogate Convention Centre is great. The space is absolutely perfect for us. But then you've got certain amounts of red tape that you have to be really careful with, and introducing new things. The exhibitors particularly are really unhappy with. Like, we suddenly have to bring, like, everybody has to have high vis. Everybody has to have sturdy shoes, and all these kind of rules. Whereas we would just have it as this lovely big flowery party if we could have our way. But it's good for us because it makes the festival safe and a professional place to be, but it doesn't really go with the Thought Bubble ethos.
Yeah, I do imagine you get like that comes on from on high, because we've had Tazziii had battles, not a Thought Bubble at Comic Con with like high vis, because I might not have brought enough high vises to cover everyone. And it was, and they let us know about it, so we had to exit fairly quickly.
Yeah, I would say another challenge for us is always trying like diversifying our audience and our exhibitors. Comics tends to be a white male interest area, so things like that. So in the last few years, that's when we've introduced our bursaries. I don't know if you know about our bursaries.
No, I didn't.
So we offer We offer free tables and wadges of cash, sponsored kindly by Travelling Man Comics. So yeah, we give free tables and a big lump of cash to creators of colour, disabled creators, and non-binary creators, and just like the more projects that we do like that. I don't know if you'll have seen that at the show this year we had a map. We have our diversity maps. Our non-binary map. I think it had about 180 exhibitors on it this year.
Wow.
So, like, you know, the more of those things that we're introducing, the more effect it's having on both our applicants for tables and our audience, because which just means makes for a nice diverse crowd. You'll have noticed. It's definitely more so at Thought Bubble than you get at a lot of Comic Con.
Yeah, I can attest to that.
Yeah.
I've seen that, and no, I didn't know about the bursary after, because we've got some budding comic creators on our team, other than what I'm trying to get them to do for Maya Matter, but in their own right. And a couple of them, or one in particular I'm thinking of, I need to kick to get to making stuff and show it. So I'm going to keep that in mind.
Absolutely.
For
I'll
him.
send you the link once we're introducing it again this year. Yeah.
And I will push him. The other two don't need as much pushing, but he needs a bit. Tazziii knows what I'm talking about. But how about yourself, Abby?
I think, you know, we've been quite lucky with the venue, because we've been in the same venue now for 4 years. But because the venue's so big, we're just growing within it. I mean, I say that, I've got a horrible feeling we can't go next year, because I don't know if they've got a venue availability in October, which is specifically the month we do it. So that'll be interesting for us. But I must say, I think we've been quite lucky. Although I know there is the red tape, they are quite good to us. And we're obviously not as big as Thought Bubble. So, and I think also for them, we were the first people to come in that really ran a big event for kids. I don't think that's something they'd had before. So I must admit, actually, well, ask me in like 2 months' time whether we're doing an event there next year. But I think we've been lucky, lucky with that. But I think similar to what Martha said, resource, you know, when you're such a small team, but it's so much work. It's difficult. What we did this year, actually, for the first time, which has been great, is we got interns. And it's through an organisation where they come over from the US. So there's 2 of them studying at NYU. And they use this organisation works with NYU and a few other universities in America. And we sort of put up job roles, and then these young people will come and have a look, and then they come and work, and it's sort of 20 hours a week for 3 months. So that has actually made a massive difference and really helped us a lot this year. And just having some different thoughts and younger voices in the team has been brilliant as well. But it's got to come down to resource. And I mean, really, it comes down to funding, Nigel, but you're not going to let us talk about that.
No, that's right. That's right here.
I was going to say, Abby, I admire you getting interns in, because we always think about it. We would love it. And we've got an arts university here who offers that kind of thing. But we so struggle to get the processes out of our own heads. Do you know what I mean?
Oh my goodness, Martha, I know exactly what you mean. And this year, in many ways, at the beginning of them coming, it has caused me more work, because they'll sort of be looking at me like, how do I do this? And I'm looking at them like, how do I take this from my brain, where it's been for 7 years, and make you understand it? So no, I totally...
We really struggle, and we're just like, surely it's quicker if we just do it.
Yeah.
I've been there. Yeah.
But that's where you know, you end up having some kind of breakdown with that kind of thinking.
Yeah, also get that.
Understand.
Yeah.
All right, so we have arrived at the point where I think there's a lot to say. So, because I wanted to separate the funding, because I know that's always the number one. So I wanted to draw out everything else before we get to it. But yeah, so one of the other perceptions I imagine a lot of people have, just as your average attendee, is that if you have an event, particularly a large or like nationally recognized event, which you both have, you must be raking in like billions of millions each time. So you don't have to give exactly, but if you could like round to the nearest billion in terms of like how much, that would be appreciated. No, because you know what's funny for me, and this is something I think it would have been university, so a little while ago, my placement year, I was at a company. It was my first like sort of like corporate job, and I was talking to one of the directors, and he broke it down so simply, but it stuck in my mind where, because he was saying like, you know, I mean, forget about it now, but even then, when people were saying, "Oh, companies are making these like millions and millions, and they're just like profiteering," and obviously that does happen. But then he broke it down so simply. It's like, yeah, people always think about revenue and they equate that to profit, but they don't think about the costs. And when you
Yeah.
think about the margins on things, they're actually a lot of the times they're way smaller than you might imagine. And at that time, I hadn't really thought of that. I've that's stuck with me, and especially now with events, I know that the margins margins are thin to non-existent. So we know like the funding as a whole is an issue. But for both of you, what other, can you like break down any of the particular budget constraints for an event in general, or if you want to give examples from your events?
I think for us, so see, the thing is, I don't have any experience in any other events. I only know our event,
Hmm.
and we are a non-profit. So, I think when we started out, we were looking at how do other festivals run? Like, what framework or structure do they use? And you've got ones where the ticket costs will cover a lot of the cost, but that was never going
Yeah.
to be us because we keep our tickets incredibly cheap or they're free. We give nearly half of them away. So then it's like, well, then the stall holders cover the majority of the cost. But again, well, this was our first year. We charged for stalls, and that was very, very minimal to nothing if people couldn't afford it. So for us, we were like, we're really dependent on corporate, and that's tough because they can, things change for what a corporate wants to put their money for. There's fads, what they think at the time it looks really good for them to go isn't the same the next year. So it's an interesting one for us that we're still trying to learn what that's our framework now, but it's a difficult framework. How else can we make it better? Obviously there's funding, and I don't know, give me 2 seconds. I don't know if there's anything you find this, Martha, but a lot of grants and funding don't want to fund events. They want to sort of fund things that, in their eyes is more ongoing, which is frustrating because this, can be the beginning of something that can be more ongoing, these events. But I think for us, we're still really learning, and we've been very lucky that we have had corporates that have come along. But yeah, I would say it's tricky for us.
It's like finding that model, that essentially that business model for.
Yeah. Finding that
Yeah.
business model. We haven't quite got it, I think, to the right place yet.
Yeah, I feel that because even like for our events, smaller scale, but even as I'm trying to figure out how we do more in future and what's the model we had, because we started doing our games campaign events to do a look like a game art, and then that was previous to the pandemic. We went for the ticketing, and that covered a lot of the expenses, and then we started doing this diversity campaign, and the idea that in itself, although My Matter is a limited company, but that in itself, the idea was that, reducing barriers, and one of the barriers costs. So we wanted to make those events free, and then have like companies sponsor. Then I realized, I knew it before, but I felt it. Then diversity is a fad for a lot of organizations, and so for a couple of years we were good. People wanted to jump on that, and then suddenly no. So yeah, just having to just rethink the business model of how we make it sustainable going forward. I think a lot of people don't fully appreciate, like, I feel like going into this conversation, the two biggest misconceptions that I imagine people have is that very small teams, and it's a tough business financially to keep events going.
Yeah, I think people just overlook quite. I think people just don't think quite what the costs are. Like, as you could, like, Harrogate Convention Centre is just enormous. Obviously, I'm not going to give you exact costs.
No,
but, yeah, safe to say that it's even our tickets are a fairly average price compared to other Comic Cons, as are our tables, but it doesn't really touch the side. And we still offer. The last thing we want to be is somewhere where someone just starting out can't go to. Hence why we offer half tables, because we started doing that about 5 years ago. And we knew that our table costs would need to increase. That's when we started offering half tables, so that somebody who's just got a handful of brand new comics and zines can still afford to just come and take a small area at the con and still make it along. But yeah, I think obviously, there are just so many costs that people don't think about, like, hotels for the guests and sort of salaries, which is obviously a lot, and so really, when you start adding up those ticket and table costs, they don't really cover very much at all. And Abby, you were saying you hadn't really done events in any other industries, but I'd like I said, I'd done the piano competition, and that was a whole nother world. Soon as you and it's exactly the same with Arts Council funding. Classical music, opera, ballet, they're all fine. They get a hell of a lot of money, so the piano competition was rolling in from lots and lots of private funders as well. It was just unbelievable. But I feel like funders, like I say, don't really get what comics are doing and what they can do. I think they're still viewed as a lowbrow medium,
That's very
which
frustrating.
is so sad, because they can do so much, as we all know.
Oh no, yeah.
Have you heard of Seasick, Nigel?
Yes, I've spoken to the team, and they gave me some of the, because you mentioned, like, fine arts and more traditional arts that Arts Council funds, and they've showed me, because they've got a whole report and everything, and
yeah, they're great.
Because I'm working on an Arts Council bid at the moment, which I have expectations set accordingly, but they've helped a lot with that, and it is frustrating to see how comics are viewed. I was at a conference, a book publishers event. It was I think it's literally called the Children's Conference, and just listening to, like, publishers just talk, because I was on a panel, I sat in on some others, and it just, I don't know, it was just funny to me, just listen to people talk about, how do we get young people engaged in reading, and there's a national crisis in reading for pleasure among young people, and next year is the National Year of Reading in the UK, and they're trying to, like, figure this thing out. I'm just here like comics, like,
Yeah,
is
I
the thing where,
forget.
yeah. And to be fair, a few people, like, did mention it, and obviously I mentioned it as well, both on stage and in talking to people. But it's a new thing to them. It's like, why it's here. Anyway, this is that could be a whole other kind of
Absolutely.
discussion. But it's frustrating when it comes to funding, because then that means the perception of things dictate how funding for things go. So when you've got, like, your event that is doing a lot for, like, young people, something that is engaging them in reading, and reading has so many, like downstream benefits, as well as the actual enjoyment of it, and it's like, nah, we don't want to do that, because we feel it's something silly, because we saw one comic some years ago and that was kind of silly.
I think our downfall is that we call ourselves a comic convention, but all these other comic conventions that aren't actually about reading at all also call themselves comic conventions. So there's this kind of confusion with funders, which is why we're always trying to just get people to come along, and see actually we're a kind of literature festival, literature and illustration, but I think people are really startled who come along and go, oh my gosh, this is unbelievable, beautiful storytelling. It's not loads of people dressed up as Spider-Man, although we have a few, don't we?
Yeah, I saw a few. Yeah, walking back and forth.
I actually brought one of my friends with me when I went to Fort Bubble, because they're up north, and she had similar surprise of how much it was about, how many, like, writers that she got in contact with, because she's into writing. That's what she studied. And she was not expecting that. She was like, oh, comic convention. She was kind of just coming along for, like, moral support for me and just, like, to hang out. And I was like, no, I think you'll think it's great. Like, there's going to be, like, loads of writers there. And I don't think it quite sat until she actually got there and was like, oh my God, this is amazing. And spoke to so many people. Yeah.
Yeah, so if only we can bring some of the funders to to the event, maybe that's a solution, or I don't know.
Yeah, yeah. I feel like I feel like we're getting there. It's
Mm,
starting to sink in. You know, so many people are telling serious stories now. You know,
yeah.
with graphic novels, and so many people are using infographics and comic art to put across difficult information. You know,
Mm.
I think people are starting to see that it's the way to go.
Yeah, in fact, that's so back to the funding and the business model. One of the things that I've come to is a lot of what we do as a brand, as a business, is a service. So working on providing more of that. So even the using comics as a way to convey information, we're starting to do more of that. Want to do more of that going forward, and then that just allows us to grow as a business, and then we can sort of do the event, and it requires less of the goodwill of your average corporation. So that's something I'm exploring for our events, as well as bringing back some of the ticketed events that we were doing pre-pandemic. So it's still, I'm like with you, Abby, trying to figure out what the model looks like for us. So yeah, no, thank you both for sharing that. And I wanted to look at the future of events, but I'll kind of pin it on the past. And you've both been doing events pre-pandemic, and I wonder how, if I imagine yes, but if things have changed and how things have changed. Because one of the things that I've noticed, and I feel, Tazzy, I don't know if you've felt this either in yourself or maybe like sort of people around you, like it's harder to get people out to do things now. And you like ticketed events, if you have to pay for events, like I could just stay at home because now I used to stay at home. So have you found things have changed for your events since the pandemic, and if so, how, in terms of the audience in particular?
I'm not going to be great at answering this just because we only did one event before the pandemic. And that was for like 80 girls. And then we hit the pandemic
Pandemic
and
again now.
went online. But then we came. So I'm not. Yes, I'm gonna hand that back to Martha.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we did a digital event. We just did that one year where we had a digital event, and then
Mm.
things kind of worked themselves back in slowly. But yeah, obviously we'd be going for well over a decade before that as well. But do you know, thought bubbles are we're selling more tickets every year. Yeah, we didn't, you know, we even after like first year 2020, was it been 2021, our first year back? Yeah, we just kind of, it's just enthusiasm from everyone really. And I think with Thought Bubble in particular, it's kind of classed as this end of year celebration. And yeah, it is interesting because I think a comics crowd in general can be socially insular
Yeah.
people. I think, but
Yeah.
I
A lot of
think,
introverts.
yeah, and just yeah, probably suffer more with their health than a lot of others. But I think at Thought Bubble, we try. We do absolutely everything we can to make it easy on everybody. And you know, just for example, we send out everyone a kind of hints and tips for exhibiting at Thought Bubble. And one of the hints, because I watched this woman on Instagram saying how she found that she sold she wasn't a comic artist, it was just like a kind of little arts fair. She said
Mm.
she found that she sold so much more from her table when she sat there knitting with her head down than if she stood up kind of trying to get people to come to her table, you know. And I
Ooh.
found that really
Oh, that's interesting.
interesting. I found it really interesting. And I think a comics audience, exhibitors as well as ticket buyers, like I say, they're a shy lot. It's a shy lot. And so, you know, in our hints and tips for people, we do say, you know, you don't have to be a great seller. Do feel free to just sit there and sketch. And some people are going to prefer that and are more likely to
Yeah, yeah,
approach your table that way. And
yeah.
let
That's
me
what.
answer your question. That was a spin
No,
off,
no.
but,
Yeah. But if I could indulge your spin-off for it, because you made me think
yeah.
so, because that's something that's always been, as someone behind the table, is how to approach that, because I'm not the artist on our team, so I don't draw, so I can't sit and sketch. So what I learned early on, and this was yeah, I guess a decade ago now, we started going to events as exhibitors. Is that so? I'm not necessarily the sales person that's gonna like, hey,
Sure.
come over here, read a comic. I've seen people do it. I've seen people like almost force comics into other people's hands, and it works
Oh
for the moment.
yeah.
I've seen that. I don't do that, but I like
No.
to engage people where I can. But I've also noticed like people will some people might think, oh, as soon as you start talking, you're immediately trying to sell, which I guess ultimately you are trying to do. So I guess they're not necessarily wrong, but it's not a hard sell. It's just like it's sometimes just a conversation. Like whether you buy something or not doesn't really matter. Just trying to have a conversation, take a card, maybe in future, that kind of thing. But then I've never quite got how to how to balance it. Do you want to step back and let people come in and then chat, or do you want to? Some people like to be approached and like to be, I get people who are like, so tell me what this is, and I'm like, oh, okay, let me do the pitch. So
Oh
that's a
yeah.
tough one.
It is tough, and I think it's just different from person to person. Some
Yeah,
people are really,
yeah,
really confident to walk up to a table and look at something and walk off without buying anything. And some
yeah,
people
yeah.
find that incredibly, anxiety inducing
Mm.
to get up close to somebody's table and walk off without buying anything. But yeah, I
Mm.
don't know. I think you should be prepared to do any of those techniques,
Yeah,
because you don't know who you're
yeah.
going to get. You
Who's
don't know who
coming?
you're going to get coming up to your table. It might be someone who really wants a chat, and it might be somebody who wants to not make eye contact.
Yeah, conventions of like show just people are so varied.
Yeah,
It's
absolutely.
funny. We can look forward then, and as we wrap up and think about how events are evolving, because in the game space, and Tazzy, we both spoke about this, we've lost a lot of events, and just as things change and people don't go to certain events anymore, or I think most likely, back to the sort of large corporates don't support events in the way they used to, because online is now an option. So I feel it's kind of changed the landscape of how you run an event and what people go to events for. And I wondered, Tazzy, for you, as what you go to an event, other than sort of like working an event, but just as a individual, as what you go to events for changed in recent years?
I was going to say I don't really go to events that I'm not
Yeah.
working, but I actually do, but they're a lot smaller events because they're normally like content creator events. Definitely, yeah. I think when I go to events now, I want more like social things. I just want to be social. I don't want to have to do anything or needs like an agenda. I think I get really overwhelmed if there's loads of talks. And I think, yeah, like I definitely want more hands on things and more social things. I'd rather go to a workshop than a talk. And I'd rather do something that involves me interacting with others than anything else. And I feel like before, not so much. Before, I'd be happy to just buy things and watch things and like wander around. But yeah, now I definitely want more interaction with other people. And like, I prefer. Is it that I prefer smaller events? I just prefer events that allow that like connection to happen. So I was gonna say I prefer smaller events, but like I loved Thought Bubble, and that's
Mm,
massive.
yeah.
But it's because it felt small in terms of it. You had time to have those connections and those chats, even though the event itself was big. And yeah, so it was all about connection. I just want to be able to connect and have a hands-on experience.
Makes sense. I feel a lot of that are things that you can't get at home, basically, in terms of like event experience, and because we can buy a lot of stuff from home and we don't have to leave the house. In fact, someone will bring it to you. You can now. So
Yeah,
yeah, I get
and I'd
that.
much
Like,
rather like a talk where I can sit and fidget and take notes in my own space. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Because even with like panels and stuff at events, I'm always mindful. Like I've moderated quite a few other than our own, just at other events or conferences, and I always try and say to people like the questions part is for me is key, because if people wanted to hear some like quote unquote experts talk about something, they could just go on YouTube and get that.
Mm.
So that the interaction is the important thing. So always try and obviously for our events, our panels, we try and get work in that space for people to talk and have that conversation, because that's more fun. For that part's more fun for me anyway. So Okay, I did want to continue this future facing thing, and for both Abby and Martha, wondering what changes that you see for your events, and given the new landscape that we're in with events and what people go to events for, and then as a sort of double question, what advice would you give to aspiring event organizers who might want to start an event from now, from 2025, 2026 times?
Yeah, it's interesting what you were saying there, Tazzy, because for me, for the future of Thought Bubble in particular, not necessarily events in general, I guess I can't particularly speak for, but I think something that at Thought Bubble we're really interested in is creating more networking opportunities, because I think people network at Thought Bubble quite a lot anyway. It's just hanging out with their mates that they get to see once a year. But there was a couple of years ago, we did this brilliant event where we got a room full of writers and a room full of artists, and we got the writers were able to get to stand up and kind of pitch an idea, and then an artist might put their hand up and say, oh yeah, I'd be happy to illustrate that, and then they'd go off and chat about that, and it was really lovely. And we had to kind of roll with the punches a bit, because there were people there that weren't confident. There were artists there with their portfolios, but they didn't want to stand up and talk about themselves, so we just ended up laying out this table where they could sit and just put out their portfolios, and the writers would walk by, and some really great partnerships were made. And this year, for the very first time, we did 2 full days of portfolio reviews with our bigger guests as well. And so yeah, for us, I think that's the kind of direction that we would like to move in. I feel like what we're doing currently, we're doing really well. So I don't feel like there's anything we particularly want to change or remove, but there might be just a few little additions like that. And advice, I would say it has to be, if you're going to put on an event, you need to start small. Obviously, everyone's going to tell you that. You're not just going to start with the size of Thought Bubble. That would be ridiculous behaviour. But it has to be something that you're interested in. You can't. I think you might look at a Comic-Con and think, oh, that looks easy, or that looks like something that lots of people will want to go to. But if you haven't got the passion behind if you haven't got the passion behind the basic idea, then you're not going to do it well. Is my thought. So if there's something that you're passionate about, be it comics or art or anything, then that has to be the seed of it. You can't want to do the event before you've got the thing that you want to do the event about, if you see what I mean.
Right. Yeah, that makes sense. I feel that you have to care about it. So it doesn't make sense otherwise.
Yeah.
And Abby, how about yourself? What do you see looking forward, and any advice for aspiring event organisers?
I think for us, it's not necessarily about growing London. It's about, because I think what works in London that size is it's a great size for kids. Because the sessions are 3 hours long, so there's enough in that 3 hours. So I don't ever see Festival of Gold being one big event. What I hope for is that it's being run in different communities. Like we are actually in Newcastle in March, so that's going to be our first regional festival, and that's sort of our first trying to see how it's received and how that goes. And so I think for us the future is, how do we, again, it comes back to the structure, the model, how do we create something that can be run in different places, but also that can be run by other people. I always come back to TED and TEDx. I remember years ago applying to do a TEDx. I mean, God, the application form was crazy, and we didn't get it anyway. But how do we create something where people can apply from anywhere across the globe to run it? But at the same time, as I mentioned before, we can help them with a structure that means that it isn't necessarily going to be women having to do voluntary work to do it. So that's sort of where I hope for it to go. And obviously there's talks about Festival of the Boy. So let's see about that. But I think my advice is just like Martha's, obviously, start small. I mean, I think about our first one in 2019 was for 80 girls, and we got a free venue. And we were like, should we just give? And we asked, all the different, people who came and run activities with, friends. Like it was such a sort of like, we feel very passionate about this. Let's just give it a whirl and see what happens. And I think Martha's absolutely right. Like you won't get the event right, or you won't have the drive to keep going, because it won't always be easy.
That's it, isn't it?
Yeah, unless you really understand what it is that drives you and the what you want to get from running it. But also I'd say just start as well. Like if you have that understanding of what it is, just start asking around about free spaces and just get something up and running.
Mm-hmm. That's solid advice. Tazziii, I don't know if you want to add in any advice for people from like attendee perspective and what people might be looking for, or the future of My Matter events. Who knows? I don't know what's happening all the time.
Think about like how accessible is the event to your audience, and I mean that across like all spaces. Like how approachable and accessible is it? So you having the costs of the tickets. I know it's like a hard thing to balance because we've spoke about like how much it costs to put on an event, but there's no point in putting on an event that your target audience can't attend because the tickets are too expensive. And also like accessibility for those that need it, like making sure that your audience can get in, and considering like doing the best you can to make everything like as accessible. Having a quiet space is really important because like events are overwhelming just in general, so those kind of things are really important.
We have that at Thought Bubble, and we give out we were one of the first Comic Cons to do it, I think, and we give out sunglasses and earplugs as well for people who are experiencing sensory overload. So I'd recommend that more festivals do that kind of thing, because it really, really gets utilised.
Yeah, exactly. And like making people aware. So the other thing is information. Oh my God. Because just making sure that there is information before the event, things like map, FAQs, like look at other events that have FAQs. So think about like, especially if it's your first event, and look at what questions they get asked to help build your FAQ. And like just have as much information available as possible. And then like on the day, signage, how do people get in, like all of these things.
Signage is the one that I had to learn. We still haven't got it right, definitely, but just I became aware of in doing events.
Yeah, like signage. But like, don't solely rely on your venue to have signage to toilets. Because sometimes the way an event is laid out compared to the venue, like things might not be as obvious based on the event layout compared to how the venue normally operates. Like, oh God, the XL is a big one for that. Like, they have toilets everywhere, but they're not always open.
No, yeah.
Like, and you'd like, one of my biggest peeves going to Comic Con is like trying to find a toilet. The XL has so many toilets. And I was actually working an event on the weekend, and the event actually put up signs for toilets to not rely on the XL solely. And I was like, this is such a good thing.
We work with a company called Specialist Autism Services. They help us run our quiet area, and they have a table at Thought Bubble every year as well. But they put together this pack for us. It was so incredible. It was for anyone who might just struggle with going into somewhere that they've never ever been before, like you're saying, Tazziii, and they put together this document for Thought Bubble that was like, when you stand opposite the building, there are 4 glass doors. You want to push it, the second door is the door that opens, and telling you where everything is in such minute detail that they could then hand out to all of their service users. But that kind of thing is helpful to anybody, isn't it? Like that kind of detailed knowledge before you go, because some people really struggle with that.
Yeah. And then just having very clear signage. Like plain, bold, this is what it is. No added information, because then that can get really overwhelming. And like information points. Yeah, I think my biggest thing is like signage and information. Because there's nothing like being at an event and being like, I literally don't know where to go, what to do. Like, especially like workshops and talks and stuff might be in like different rooms. So like having those nicely labeled. I think having fun names for those rooms that aren't, because the Excel, it's like what the platinum suite and the, I'm sorry, they're so hard to remember and so hard. Like, I liked what you done at Festival of the Girl and had like the rooms named and themed, and like that just makes it so much easier than them just being like whatever room 656. Like your audience does not know or understand that. Make it relevant.
That theme, no, it's good. It's good advice. So yeah, there you go. If anyone's listening, and you want to start an event, here's your your one-stop shop for all event advice. But yeah, no, thank you everyone. Thank you to our guests and Tazziii for that laundry list of advice. Like, take note, everyone. So yeah, thank you for taking part and giving us that perspective as well. Really appreciate it. And I'm also taking notes because I've definitely got a lot to improve on as we work on our events. Listeners, let us know what you thought. Give us a shout if you're trying to make your own event. I know I've spoken to people fairly recently who are interested in it, so I'll definitely be sending this to them. And you can email us as well, jump in our Discord or email studio77@myamanda.com. Before we wrap up, let's check in with our guests.
So this is the part of the podcast where we just love to hear a little update from you both on any latest news or exciting projects, and also any details online of where people can find you or your projects.
I mean, Thought Bubble is my only project. It's pretty depressing, isn't it?
It's simple. Nice and simple.
I really do very little else. But yeah, you can find out all about us at www.thoughtbubblefestival.com. There's not a whole lot up there right now because we are in the kind of fallow period between festivals, having just had our festival a couple of weeks ago, where we will be making guest announcements probably in the next couple of months, and also opening up our applications, so people are more than welcome to apply for tables. We have a mailing list, thoughtbubblefestival.com/mailing list, and that's where we let people know when our table applications open. We have about 550 exhibitor tables, so it's definitely worth applying.
Thank you so much. And I don't think just having Thought Bubble is boring. Thought Bubble is such a great event. Abby, do you also want to share what you have going on?
Yeah, so I also agree that Thought Bubble is definitely not boring. It's incredible. It's a funny one next year. So, I mean, things that are definitely confirmed is we do a trailblazing women event where we sort of bring together women that have supported us in the past, but ask them to bring a friend, sort of bring a friend, build a legacy. We've got that event going on again at the Sea Containers London Hotel. So in February, which will be great. It's just a great way to meet women in lots of different sectors, and then hopefully get them to help support Festival of Girl. In March, we're in Newcastle, so that is it's a big first for us. So that's the 22nd, Sunday the 22nd of March. It's smaller than our London event. We'll probably be a bit for about 300 girls, but that's going to be very exciting. And then hopefully in May, we'll be doing something for Festival of the Boy in celebration of International Day of the Boy, but I'm not 100% sure what that looks like, and I don't know what London looks like for next year. So there's lots up in the air. So I would just say come and find us. It's very simple, festivalgirl.com website, or on Instagram when we make the effort to post things. So that's where you find us. And yeah.
Thank you so much, both of you, for coming on and sharing your expertise today.
Thank you so much for
You're very welcome.
having me.
No, I appreciate it. And yeah, I appreciate everyone listening to this episode of Story X Story. Do make sure you subscribe to the podcast so you don't miss a future episode and discussions like these. You can also give us a 5-star rating and review where you can, because that helps us reach new listeners and fans of story discussions. We are story creators ourselves. You can check out our manga online, mymatter.com, which includes a link to the latest release, Origins Against All Odds. And also, don't forget to join the Discord, Studio 77 Discord, to connect with us in between episodes. And you've still got time to take part in the Do I Look Like a Gamer video game representation campaign, which is our yearly initiative for inclusion and diversity in the video games industry and wider culture. So, like I said, we've got an event for this year, but then we're doing it all again next year. So looklikeagamer.com, find out how you can get involved. And as for the podcast, we release new episodes on Thursdays, and that includes creator interviews, video game discussions, and deep dives into stories across pop culture. You can always give us a shout directly. Our email address is studio77@mymatter.com, and our website with links to subscribe is mymatter.com/storyxstory. So thank you for tuning in, and until next time, stay safe. And remember, if you are having a challenge with funding, it might be in the name. So we are no longer a podcast. We are a highbrow, bespoke, conversational delivery system. Give us money, please. Take care, everyone.